Hello and welcome to my channel International Relations. Today we are going to discuss Hezbollah and its political and military activities. So let me start. Introduction. Formation of Hezbollah. As we know Hezbollah, what are the meanings of Hezbollah? Hezbollah means the party of God, is a Shia Islamist political, military and social organization that wields considerable power in Lebanon. When it formed, Hezbollah formed in 1982 in response to the Israeli invasion of Lebanon. This Lebanon-based radical Shia group takes its ideological inspiration from the Iranian Revolution and the teachings of the late Ayatollah Khamenei. So, Hezbollah inspired from the teaching of Ayatollah Khamenei. Governing body of Hezbollah. The Majlis al-Shura is the group's highest governing body and is led by Secretary General Hassan Nasrallah. What was the purpose of formation of Hezbollah? The purpose for the formation of Hezbollah was to liberate Jerusalem and to eliminate Israel, and has formally advocated ultimate establishment of Islamic rule in Lebanon. Hezbollah also participating in Lebanon political system. Hezbollah is closely allied with and often directed by Iran, but has the capability and willingness to act independently. Though Hezbollah does not share the Syrian regime's secular orientation, the group has been a strong ally in helping Syria to advance its political objectives in the region. Next, history of Hezbollah. Originally, a small-scale guerrilla group in southern Lebanon, it was formed to resist Israeli invasion in the 1980s. And second, creation of Israel is also responsible for the formation of Hezbollah, as the seeds that led to Hezbollah's emergence were planted in the 2 decades following the creation of the State of Israel in 1948. And as we know that Hezbollah inspired by the Iranian Islamic Revolution, a group of young Lebanese, including a 22-year-old religious scholar named Hassan Nasrallah, joined forces with the ambitious goal of eradicating the Israeli presence in Lebanon. Though through a series of crude guerrilla attacks, including suicide bombings, kidnappings, and assassinations. Hassan Nasrallah became Secretary General. After Israel assassinated the movement's leader Abbas al-Muswi, in 1992 Nasrallah took over as the group's Secretary General. Meanwhile, the group continued its steady stream of attacks against Israeli troops in southern Lebanon until Israeli Prime Minister Barak, ordered their withdrawal in 2000, allowing Hezbollah to proclaim the achievement of their 18-year mission. Hezbollah's success has won its support from many sides. Its reputation as the most successful anti-Israeli military group in the Middle East has won support from Arab nationalists and the backing of Iran and Syria. US placed Hezbollah on its terrorist list. It was placed on the US State Department terrorist list in 1999. 2006 Second conflict with Israel. In 2006, a second conflict exploded between Hezbollah and Israel. The resulting battle killed more than 1,000 Lebanese civilians. These were civilians, and Hezbollah involvement in Syrian civil war. Hezbollah involvement in Syrian civil war has been substantial since the beginning of armed insurgency phase of the Syrian civil war and turned into active support and troop deployment from 2012 onwards. By 2014, Hezbollah involvement began to turn steady in support of Syria, Baath's government forces across Syria. Hezbollah deployed several thousand fighters in Syria and by 2015 lost up to 1,500 fighters in combat. Hezbollah has also been very active to prevent rebel penetration from Syria to Lebanon, being one of the most active forces in the Syrian civil war spillover in Lebanon. And next will come organization of Hezbollah. Former governing structure. At the beginning, many Hezbollah leaders have maintained that the movement was not an organization, for its members carry no cards and bear no specific responsibilities, and that the movement does not have a clearly defined organization structure. But nowadays, Hezbollah have a formal governing structure too. Majlis al-Shura. The supreme decision-making bodies of the Hezbollah were divided between the Majlis al-Shura, which was headed by 12 senior clerical members with responsibility for tactical decisions and supervision of overall Hezbollah activity throughout Lebanon. And second one is Majlis al-Shura al-Qarar, headed by Sheikh Mohammed Hussein Fazlullah and composed of 11 other clerics with responsibility for all strategic matters. And with the Majlis al-Shura, there existed 7 specialized committees dealing with ideological, financial, military and political, judicial, informational and social affairs. And next we'll talk about political activities of Hezbollah. Political activities. Hezbollah, one of the one of the two major political parties in Lebanon, along with Amal, is one of the two major political parties, represent the Shia Muslims. Hezbollah maintains broad-based support in all three areas of Lebanon, with the majority Shia Muslim population in the south, in Beirut and its surrounding area, and in the northern Bekaa Valley and Hermil region. Hezbollah is the most powerful single political movement in Lebanon. And next we'll discuss military activities of Hezbollah. Hezbollah has a military branch known as the Jihad Council, and one component of which is the Islamic resistance, and is the possible sponsor of number of lesser known other militant groups, some of which may be little more than fronts for Hezbollah itself, including the Organization of the Oppressed, the Revolutionary Justice Organization, the Organization of Right Against Wrong, and followers of the Prophet Muhammad. The Lebanese resistance brigades were formed by Hezbollah in 1997 as a multi-path volunteer force to combat the Israeli occupation of southern Lebanon. With the Israeli withdrawal from Lebanon in 2000, the organization was disbanded. In 2009, the resistance brigade were reactivated. During the 1982 to 2000 South Lebanon conflict, Hezbollah waged a guerrilla war campaign against Israeli forces occupying southern Lebanon. In 2006 Lebanon war, it was a 34-day military conflict in Lebanon and northern Israel. The principal parties were Hezbollah paramilitary forces and the Israeli military. Involvement in the Syrian war. Hezbollah's involvement in the Syrian war. Hezbollah has long been an ally of the Baath's government of Syria, led by Al-Assad family. Hezbollah has helped the Syrian government during the Syrian civil war in its fight against the Syrian opposition, which Hezbollah has described as a Zionist plot to destroy its alliance with Al-Assad against Israel. In August 2012, the United States sanctioned Hezbollah for its alleged role in the war. Thank you.